getting paper on these player haters. Old news, money on the other line.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of I'm Not Gonna Hold You. Of course, this is season 2, episode 5. As usual, I'm your host, Scott. You know what to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarbChairScott. You can follow HNB Media, HNB Media TV on Twitter, and at HNB Media on Instagram, man. And of course, you can follow the Barbers Chair Network at Barbers Chair Net on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network, man. As you can see, we are not in the studio today. We're going to be mobile for the next couple weeks, man. We'll be back in the studio sometime in March, but still here, still going to give you guys content, not going to leave you. So we're here, man. It is Super Bowl week in Los Angeles. It is a great week here in Los Angeles. It is currently about 90 degrees out here in at least in West LA right now. I'm enjoying it. I've been out in LA for 8 years now. And I'll be real, 80 degrees in February does not get old. Does not get old whatsoever, man. But we got a lot of things to talk about. We got the homie writer Shakeia Taylor. She's gonna be joining me later on the show. We're gonna be talking about her opinion on the Bears, talk about what she feels about the MLB lockout. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens missing out on the Hall of Fame once again. And of course, we'll get her Super Bowl predictions. And of course, it's been a busy day in sports. We've had NBA trade deadline. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into, how my overall thoughts. I feel like it was kind of a lukewarm deadline, so we'll get more into that. But it's time to kick off my sound off, man. The week is finally here. Over 20 plus weeks of football are in the books, and it's time for Super Bowl 56 here in Los Angeles between the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals and the NFC champion Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams are going to be the second team to host the Super Bowl in their own arena. Of course, we know last year Tampa Bay hosted it where they eventually won the Super Bowl. So my sound off, we're going to get into storylines. A lot of storylines. Every Super Bowl week, there's different storylines, especially a Super Bowl in LA. And this is the first actual Super Bowl in LA since like the 70s when they had it at the Coliseum, because they won in 1992. It was at the Rose Bowl. If anybody who lives in Los Angeles has spent any major time in Los Angeles, you know Pasadena ain't LA. So this is the actual first one in Los Angeles. So let's talk about some storylines, man. I think the biggest storyline coming into this is the LA Rams and the pressure that is on Matthew Stafford coming into this game. Not only just Matthew Stafford, but also Sean McVay. Matthew Stafford's been in the league 13 years, and this is the first year that he's really made any progress in the postseason. Made a couple playoffs with the Detroit Lions, didn't do anything, and this year winning his first playoff game against the Arizona Cardinals, then beating the GOAT and then the champs in Tampa, and then taking care of the division rivals, the San Francisco 49ers 2 weeks ago. And now they are here in their own building where he can really knock a lot of demons off by winning this game. He can shut a lot of people up, specifically me. Everybody knows that I've called him Stat Padford. I have not been a believer of him, and I'm not going to change my philosophy or my thinking on that. I'm still not a big believer in Matthew Stafford, but he can shut me up in this game. So I think that is a big storyline right there. Will this win get him into the Hall of Fame? I know there's been a lot of conversation about that. I personally wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame no matter if he wins or not, because, I mean, you can't really overlook, he only has one Pro Bowl. I mean, he had a great regular season this year. Maybe this builds off and maybe he can win another championship or continue to make a couple more Pro Bowls, or always be in that race in the next couple of years with the Rams. Maybe that'll help his chances of getting the Hall of Fame. But to me, this game doesn't put him in Canton no matter what happens. And then you've got the storyline of Sean McVay and the Rams. The Rams have kind of been the anti version of how to build a team in today's era. A lot of people build their team through the draft. This team has been the complete opposite. Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, doesn't give a fuck about draft picks. He's giving up mad draft picks to get Jalen Ramsey, to get Von Miller. And, of course, this Matthew Stafford deal, he gave up 2 first-rounders to get Matthew Stafford. He doesn't care. So now it's going to see if this other way, and which is not a wrong way. I love ownership and GMs who spend money, because I feel like more teams should do that. I mean, y'all are billionaires. These are big franchises. Y'all got the money to do it. Fuck those picks. I wish my team did that shit more. So it's going to be interesting to see if this pays off, because no matter what we want to say about Jared Goff, and yes, I do think Jared Goff is a bad quarterback. I didn't think that Matthew Stafford will be better than him no matter what happens in this game. But to me, to justify trading that many picks for Matthew Stafford, you got to win the whole damn thing, because that would be like, okay, those picks are worth it, because Jared Goff was on the team and still got this team to the Super Bowl. They made the Super Bowl 3 years ago in the 2018 season. Of course, it was 2019 when they played the game, and they ended up losing to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. And it's pressure on Sean McVay too. Like, can he finally win the big one? You know, I'm not saying you get a pass for losing the Super Bowl, because you definitely don't, especially with, you know, him being an offensive guru and that offense only putting up 3 points in that Super Bowl. But losing to Tom Brady, you can kind of, okay, it's Tom Brady. Like, you can kind of understand a little bit. This situation, and this is no disrespect to Cincinnati, this is a situation you should win. You should win this. This is not Tom Brady. This is a situation when you're the favorite. On paper, you have the better team, and you should go out there and take advantage of it, man. And the other storyline will have to be, of course, is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, nobody saw them getting here outside of my 2-minute drill co-host Pierce, and of course my partner in this Barbershop Network thing. He one of the people who had them as his dark horse team when we did our playoff preview episode a couple weeks ago. But I didn't see it happening. I picked them to finish third in their division this year. Even when the playoffs started, I didn't pick them 1 week. I didn't pick them against Tennessee. I didn't pick them against the Raiders. I didn't pick them. Actually, I did pick them against the Raiders. I'm correct. I didn't pick them against Tennessee, and I didn't pick them against the Chiefs. But they're here now. They're here now. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, this whole feel-good story of them going from a team that won 4 games last year, a team that, you know, Joe Burrow missed a great majority of the year tearing his ACL, and now they're here in the big game this quickly. Just kind of shows you just how much that the NFL is a year-to-year league. Yeah, you can be ass 1 year, and you can be right here in the big game if you have that franchise-changing quarterback, and that's what it looks like Joe Burrow is. And now you're here on the main stage, and you know, a lot of people, we're going to hear a lot of comparisons to Tom Brady if the Bengals go out here and win this game. I think he's more comparable to Joe Montana just because of his personality and how how he carries himself. He's more laid back and more cool. You know, Brady's real robotic. Everything Brady does is planned. Joe Montana was just a cool dude. Like, he just laid back. You know, even when things got to him, you didn't really tell it could get to him. And if you haven't watched the documentary, especially some of y'all youngins out there need to be more, you know, up on the history of the game of football, I will watch the 6-part Joe Montana documentary that's on Peacock right now. I would compare him more to Joe Montana than Brady, but you're going to hear a lot of Brady comparisons because Brady is the GOAT. It's kind of like when Mike retired. Now, who's going to be the next Mike? Or even now, who's going to be the next LeBron? You know, that's a lot of pressure, but if he goes out there and wins the Super Bowl in the second season, kind of like Tom Brady did, you're going to hear a lot about that. So I won't say that the Bengals are playing with house money, sort of, like I wouldn't say that because it's the Super Bowl and also it's the NFL. You never know when you're going to be here again. I mean, even Tom Brady with 7 championships, he went a full decade without winning one. So you never know when you're going to be back here. You can just ask Dan Marino when he went up against Joe Montana in the Super Bowl in the 80s. You would think that he was young, he was MVP, he was great. He's going to be here multiple times. He never went back. So I won't say they're playing with house money, but they've got a lot less pressure on them than the Rams do. And I think they're going to come into a lot more light. So those are storylines. And also, one last storyline. Hollywood, this is a big moment for Los Angeles sports. I made jokes about, the Rams don't have any fans. And of course, we had the homie Nick Hamilton who came on here 2 weeks and was really talking about how the Rams are building their fan base. This is a big moment for them. LA is a town that loves winners. People are mad as hell at the Lakers right now because they're used to winning and they're not doing that. So if you can build a winner, if the Rams can go out there and win a championship, you're going to be able to get some of these young fans to be like, okay, the Rams are my team. A lot of people my age in their 30s, and even in their late 20s, they didn't have, if you were growing up in Los Angeles, you didn't have a team to root for. So this is a good opportunity, and even for the NFL to kind of showcase their great stadium in SoFi. And SoFi is by far the best stadium I've been to, whether it's baseball, basketball, football. It is gorgeous, and it was a fun time even just for regular ass Chargers games. I can only imagine what it's going to be like this Sunday for the Super Bowl. So it's a big moment to see where this is going to be going. Of course, Roger Goodell said they're going to be circulating the Super Bowl. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be about 5 sites that you're going to mainly see the Super Bowl over the next couple of years with Los Angeles. And he even said in his press conference that it will be coming to LA. Of course, Arizona, that's where Super Bowl 57 is going to be at. Vegas, that's where Super Bowl 58 is going to be at. And of course, you've got Dallas could be a thing. So it's gonna be a lot of warm weather, up to date new stadium type of places we're gonna be seeing the Super Bowl at, man. So those are my storylines heading into Super Bowl 56, man. So we're gonna get right into the rundown. We're gonna do a full breakdown on this game. Let's talk about what the Bengals need to do to win. I'm gonna name a couple things before I actually give you my prediction of what's going to happen this Sunday. So about the Bengals need to do. I'm going to name 3 things that the Bengals need to do to win this football game. Number 1 thing is they've got to keep Joe Burrow up. He cannot be getting sacked as much as has been getting sacked this postseason. Really, this whole season, this whole time in Cincinnati. I mean, that's how he got fucking hurt last year. And this offensive line is their main concern. And yes, I know I had somebody tweet me, well, Scott, Burrow got sacked 9 times against Tennessee and it didn't matter. They still won. And yes, that's my concern because this fucking defensive line they got on the Rams is not the Tennessee Titans. Aaron Donald has a great chance to solidify himself in that GOAT conversation of greatest defensive player ever if he wins the Super Bowl this year. You've got Von Miller, who's hands down changed the complexion of Super Bowl 50 when the Broncos beat the Panthers. Completely took Cam Newton out of his rhythm and didn't have him looking like the MVP he was that season. Now, of course, Von's not the same guy that he was, but he's had a pretty damn good postseason. Got a guy, Leonard Floyd, who was not the top 9 pick that the Bears wanted him to be, but he's still a very reliable member of that defensive line, and he's been making plays. So they have to keep him upright. If he's getting sacked and getting hit, I don't think they're going to have a chance in this game. They need to be able to keep him, moving and limit the times he's going to get. You can't shut down Aaron Donald in that defensive line. Well, if you can limit it to like 2 or 3 sacks, you know what I'm saying? You can really limit what they can do and actually give yourself a chance to win this game. So that'd be the number 1 thing that I would say they need to do. Number 2, we have to be shut down the running game. You have to shut down Cam Akers. You have to shut down Sonny Michel. You need to make this into a passing only game for the Los Angeles Rams, because then if the runners if they're able to run the football and Cam Akers gets busy and Michelle gets busy, it's going to open up the pass. You're going to really get into Sean McVay's bag, and that's going to be trouble for this defense, which I feel like the story that nobody's talking about, well, at least not that much when we're talking about breaking down the Super Bowl and things of that nature, is this Bengals defense has been really, really fucking good. Nobody's talking about it. The defensive line has been good. The secondary has been good. I mean, Eli Apple has been even locking up. So that's going to be a big key. I mean, this is a defense that feels disrespected, that nobody's talking about them. This is a defense they'll Patrick Mahomes and that fucking Kansas City Chiefs defense to 3 points in the second half and in overtime. So I feel like they're going to be able to have their way with Matthew Stafford if they get the chance. So shut down the run is the number 1 thing they need to do, which leads to my 3rd and final point for the Bengals to win this game: force turnovers. If you can get Matthew Stafford uncomfortable, and as we can see in just the history of Matthew Stafford, and even in these playoffs, you get him uncomfortable, he's gonna give you a chance to win the game. I mean, the thing that pissed me off the most about the NFC Championship game was everybody up here praising Matt Stafford. He gave the game to them. The game was literally in Tart's hand, and he dropped it. So what you need to be able to do, you need to take advantage of that and make him throw the ball, put him in uncomfortable situations, and have him question himself. If he can question himself and get back to that old school Matt Stafford way of playing ball, you give yourself an amazing chance to win this game. So those are 3 things that I feel that the Bengals need to do to win the Super Bowl. Now let's go on to the Rams. It's really short and simple here for the Rams for me, because I do feel like they're the better team on paper. And it's real simple to me. Play that game. Play the game. Don't turn the fucking football over. If Matthew Stafford can not turn the ball over, if they can, if Cam Akers, if he can keep the ball, he had a couple fumbles in his playoffs already. If he can keep the ball, then that gives yourself a real good chance. And then you can give the ball to Cooper Kupp. Odell gets open. It really opens up the offense. You know what I'm saying? And that would be the number 1 thing that they have to do. I don't want to say it's the Rams Super Bowl to lose, because I feel like that would be disrespecting Cincinnati and everything that they've accomplished this season in this incredible playoff run. But at the same time, I feel like if they do lose this game, it's mainly because they beat themselves. So they just need to keep it simple. Don't outcoach yourself, McVay, which is what he was doing like a motherfucker in the NFC Championship game. Him and Shanahan was having an idiot off that whole fourth quarter. Keep it simple. KYP, know your personnel. Give the ball to Cooper Kupp. That opens up for Odell Beckham. Run the football and don't turn the ball over. If they can do these things, I think not only can they win, but they can run away with this thing. So that's real short and simple for the LA Rams, man. So let's get into my Super Bowl prediction. I thought about this for a long time, and honestly, I didn't actually pick till last night. This one could go either way. I think the spread is like 3 or 4 points. Don't quote me on that. I'm not the best when it comes to Vegas odds, but if I'm not mistaken, that's what it was. This game can go one or two ways, and I don't think it's gonna be either way. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be anything in between. It's either gonna be a blowout by the Rams, or it's gonna be a super close game that the Bengals win. And I understand that the Bengals have come back multiple times this year. I mean, they came back, an amazing comeback in the AFC Championship game. I just feel with everything going on, they can't afford that to happen this time. And I'm going to pick, with everything going on, all the pressure on the Rams, I'm going to pick the Rams. I'm going to pick the Rams to win this game because I just think it's their time. I think Sean McVay is going to learn from the mistakes he made in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I think this defense is ready. I think this defense is relentless. I think that Jalen Ramsey can I won't say he'll shut down Jamar, because I feel like Jamar can still get busy. And I think Jamar can still make a play or two. I mean, even look, Mike Evans was able to, take advantage of a Jalen play. But Jalen's going to be a guy who's going to be ready. He's going to be ready for Jamar Chase. And I just think there's just too much going on. I just feel like they're the better team, and I feel like they will win this football game. It would not surprise me if the Bengals win. And actually, I'm going to be rooting for the Bengals because I want my Matthew Stafford agenda to continue to live on. And also, I just don't like LA sports fans. This is keep it a buck. I don't. And I just feel like, the Bengals would be a cooler story. You got a franchise who, they've got a loyal fan base. They've been through so much, and now they finally have an opportunity to win. I just think it'd be a better story. And that's nothing against Matthew Stafford, anything like that. And I don't have any particular beef with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has never done anything to me. I mean, the Bears kicked the shit out of him when he was in our division. I just, know what kind of guy he has shown he is. So I have no problem with him per se, but I just would prefer to see, how cool it would be to see Joe Burrow hoist that trophy. And this is a great opportunity for Joe Burrow to, put his flag up. Like, all y'all talking about Mahomes, like I beat him in his crib. And now I got a ring. We 1-1 in rings now. I need to be dealt with. So he can do that. But ultimately, I just think that they're the more experienced team, the Rams. They're going to be the more prepared team. They've been here before. And I just think they just got way too much firepower. And I think the biggest thing with the Chiefs, they were smelling themselves too much. I think that was, and that's not to take anything away from the Bengals win, but they were cocky. You can see how they moved in, right before halftime. You can see how they moved on that final drive where they was in the red zone, and they just really completely fucked up that. It was bad time. It was vintage Andy Reid clock management at the end of that game. Let's keep it real. They didn't take the Bengals seriously. And I don't think that's going to be the issue. I think everybody knows what kind of threat the Bengals are. And I do feel the Rams are going to take them seriously. And as long as Matthew Stafford does not turn the ball over, they should win this football game. And I'm going to give them a 10-point win. I'm not going to put what the number is going to be, but I do think they're going to win by at least 10 points. I think it'll be, a good game. A good game, though. So that's all I have for NFL. I love the Super Bowl. Like, the Super Bowl is bittersweet because it's the big game. Everybody loves it. Even people who don't watch football, this is the one game of the season they watch. So I always love the Super Bowl. But it's kind of depressing, too. I know, man, we don't have any more football. There's going to be no more games played for like another 6 months, and granted, the NFL is a 24/7 league now. You got the draft, you got the combine in a couple weeks. Free agency is going to be in a month. And before you know it, the draft be right there, and then of course it'll be training camp. Before you know it, right back at it. But it's a little disappointing, a little sad, and this is going to be the last game. So I just hope it's a good one for us, man. So Now we're gonna pivot. We're gonna pivot here, and we're going to talk about the NBA. Today is a huge day in the NBA because it is the trade deadline day, man. A lot of teams trying to figure out what's gonna go on. You know, what the Lakers are gonna make any moves, which I thought was a hilarious thing because it's like Lakers are fucked. Like, first of all, there's no move out there. Even if they could move anything, that would save them from the hell that they're on right now. I just want to say this. I said this on Bald Online before we get into actual trades. I just want to say this on this show. I am sick and tired of the media, of fans, specifically Laker fans, blaming everything on Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is not the main problem with this Laker team. And I'm not finna sit up here as big of a Russ guy. I love Russ. Russ is a great player. I loved seeing him in person last week covering the Clipper game. But I'm not gonna sit up here and say he's not a problem. He's a problem for the Lakers, but he's probably problem number 6. He's the scapegoat right now. I don't like how he's being treated. I didn't even like that whole little, oh, he needs to take accountability. Like, what do you really want from the man? And then he's not trying to play ass on purpose. And then we also know you should have known what kind of player Russell Westbrook has been over these last couple of years. This is who he is. Now, granted, he hasn't been to this degree, this bad. Even when we were doing our preseason, predictions, and I said I didn't feel like the Lakers were going to make the finals. I didn't think they were going to be this damn bad. But it's poor roster construction. But the number one issue is this team cannot defend. The number one thing that the Lakers were good at when they won the championship in the bubble, and the thing that they weren't bad at last year either before the injuries, was they could defend. They said, fuck all that shit. They got a whole bunch of guys who can't defend. They're in the bottom half of the league defensively. And it's just it's the bad roster construction. And it's just everybody's bad. And I think LeBron has to take some fault in this. I mean, of course, Rob Pelinka takes the number one blame for it because he's a GM. He's the one who puts this team together. I know we all like to make the GM jokes. LeBron is not the general manager of this team, but he has. He had a hand in putting this roster together. Every move that Pelinka did was approved by LeBron. Let's just cut the shit. Just like in the Ben Simmons move that we're going to talk about in a minute, was approved by KD. When you have a franchise player who's won championships and is a superstar, he has that right. And I'm not saying LeBron has earned that right. 100% he's earned the right to have a voice in who gets to be on this roster. But when it doesn't work out, you got to take some blame for it, man. And I just feel like it's a train wreck. And honestly, they just got to cut their losses. I mean, at this point, I think getting a top 6 seed is cooked. I don't think that's happening. They've only got 20-something games left, and I really want people to stop saying, oh, it's the second half of the season. No, it's not second half of the season. Most teams have 27, 28 games left. We're way past the half point of the season. So when they come back from All-Star break, the season is pretty much over. They have to go on a tremendous run, which we ain't seen all damn season. I don't even think they've had a 3-game win streak all fucking season. At this point, just get in the play in, see what you can do in there, and then when the offseason comes, try to offload assets and try to bring something around AD and LeBron. Now, I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. I won't say that any contract is untradeable. As we've seen time and time again, if you want to get rid of a contract, there's ways to get rid of it. But $47 million is a big-ass contract for Russell Westbrook that you can pretty much bet he's going to opt into this summer. But so, there was a lot of questions about would they make a move. And of course, the big news was, what's going to happen between James Harden and Ben Simmons. We've been following this Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving storyline since last summer, a storyline that I've been beyond tired of. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But overall, my thoughts on the deadline, pretty mediocre. Pretty mediocre outside of, it's pretty only 3 real notable trades. A lot of it was, a lot of role players moving around and a lot of money getting switched between franchises. But let's just go over some of the notable ones. Of course, one that happened today was Kristaps Porzingis being traded to the Washington Wizards for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. This is kind of like a pointless ass deal to me. I mean, Bertans is probably decent for the Mavs. The Mavs were also interested in Goran Dragic, who was traded for Thaddeus Young to the Spurs earlier, and the Spurs are going to buy him out. I don't know where that stands with the addition of Dinwiddie. And with KP, man, KP has just pretty much he has not lived up to the expectations or the promise that he had a couple seasons ago when he was looking pretty good in New York. And a lot of it has to do with injury, but also just bad fit. I feel like it's a mix of Luka wanting him out of here, but I don't see how these two additions really help the Mavs either in their hunt to get a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. And I do feel like this is probably putting pressure on the Mavs now, because I feel like Luka is probably going to want to leave the first chance he gets. So that's one trade happening. The other one, which is the biggest what the fuck trade of this whole week, is Sabonis going to the Sacramento Kings for Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton. I didn't like this one because I really, really like Tyrese Halliburton. And this is no disrespect to De'Aaron Fox. I think De'Aaron Fox is good, but I think Halliburton has way more upside. And this is not anything against Sabonis. Sabonis is a good player. I don't think he'll be a bad fit with the Kings. I mean, they looked pretty good in their first game together. Granted, they're playing Minnesota, but I just don't really understand a lot of these trades this week. I just don't understand where are you going with this? It just doesn't make too much sense to me, especially to give up on a guy like Halliburton so young and a guy who wanted to be there. He was pretty, emotional about finding out about the trade. But as to some of it, Bulls didn't make any moves. I have my thoughts on that when you check out our third pick this week. Me and Mariano will be talking about that. But the big trade, Ben Simmons is officially out of Philadelphia. He has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Him and Seth Curry will be heading to the Nets, and the Nets will be sending back James Harden, Paul Millsap, and here's the kicker to me: 2 unprotected future first-round picks, which is to me is a huge get for the Nets. And this is a trade that had to happen just because Harden didn't want to play it anymore. And I kind of feel like we're getting off topic about who to blame here. I know a lot of people's like, well, Harden is forced his way out of, it's just the second team he's forced his way out of. Yes, but you also got, I'm going to give Harden the benefit of the doubt this time, because I don't want people to take their eyes off who the real villain is here. The real villain in this situation is not James Harden. The real villain is Kyrie Irving. All of this because he didn't want to take a goddamn shot. And I'm not going to get back and forth about vaccines again. At this point, we've been in this pandemic for 2 years. What you think about it is what you think about it. But even whatever you think about the vaccine, to me, just on a basketball level and just being a teammate, you're selling out your teammates here. And Harden wanted to come to Brooklyn to play with Kevin Durant, to play with Kyrie Irving, to be out there to win a championship. And they can't do that. He was getting fed up of carrying with KD being hurt and Kyrie only available to play half the damn games. If Kyrie actually took the shot and got vaccinated, there wouldn't be an issue here. I don't think there was any internal beef going on outside the fact that Harden was annoyed with Kyrie for not wanting to take the shot. And I feel like if that happened, we wouldn't be here. And also, that's another reason why I don't really think too much about this trade. I mean, I'm still not a big Ben Simmons fan. I think he's a pretty good defender. I think they'll help them defensively for sure. But if one of these two things doesn't happen, if Kyrie doesn't take the shot, or if New York doesn't get rid of the vaccine mandate, which their new mayor, Eric Adams, has said repeatedly that he's not going to change the vaccine mandate, I don't see how this matters. Because they are right now, I think they're the 7th or 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're on a 9-game losing streak. KD's not back until after the All-Star break. So that's probably first or second week of March. So you probably got at least 3 maybe even a month left without Kevin Durant. And Ben Simmons has still got to get into basketball shape because of his mental issue, which I think is nasty. And I'm just going to keep it a buck. I call bullshit on the mental issue thing. And I know this is the time where, rightfully so, we should be putting mental health to the forefront because that matters a lot. But he's bullshitting. He's fucking bullshitting. I think it's a bad look and it's disrespectful with people who actually do have problems with their mental health. He just ain't want to play for the motherfuckers no more. And even the things we hear now, he talked to Kevin Durant. He talked to Sean Marks, the GM, and he's like, oh, I'm feeling better now. I can't wait. It's bullshit to me. So if Kyrie takes the shot or the vaccine gets mandate gets lifted, then I think Brooklyn becomes a problem because then you got Kevin Durant coming back, you got Kyrie full time, that's your offense, and you got now Ben can do the things that he's good at doing. That's setting up the offense, that's playing defense, that's rebounding. We ain't got to worry about him having to score points because that's what KD and that's what Kyrie are there for. But if Kyrie doesn't change his mind or the vaccine doesn't get lifted, I just don't see how it moves the needle, man. They've got a huge a whole lot of ground to gain to get back into that top six. And I don't really, think that home court really matters that much because you will get Kevin Durant back, and we have Kevin Durant on your team. I don't think home court really fucking matters, but it just doesn't remove the needle for me too much if things stay status quo with Kyrie Irving. Now, as far as Philly gave up a lot. They gave up a lot. The 2 first rounders was the mind fuck for me. I have to respect Daryl Morey for going out there and getting his guy, being patient, going out there and getting him. But I don't really 100% know how well Harden and Embiid are going to work out. Now, granted, this is going to be a 1.5-year deal because Harden is opting in. He opted into his player option for next season, so he will be here next season too. I will say the pick and roll is going to be deadly. I think Seth Curry is going to be a massive loss for them, but they had to give up something else. But I do think I love the move for the simple fact you had to bring Embiid something. Embiid is probably going to win MVP. Right now, they're sitting, I think, like the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, and they could be first seed tomorrow. I mean, the first 6 seeds are separated by like 3 games or something like that. And now you've got Harden, they're going to be able to win a lot of regular season games. That pick and roll is going to be very, very hard to defend. I just don't know if this really, I still think Milwaukee is the team to beat. I don't even know if this necessarily puts them over Miami. I'm not a Bulls fan who think this team's going to win a championship, but I do think when healthy, the Bulls are going to be a team that you're going to have to reckon with. But I love the deal because they had to do it, and you had to get Embiid help. I'm just not 100% sure if it's going to work out. And how many times has the team gotten James Harden, and you thinking this is going to be the thing that's going to get you over the hump, and it just doesn't fucking happen. So that's still yet to be seen. But overall, real meh type of not all-star, but trade deadline. Probably one of the least eventful over the last couple of years. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out, man. So now all eyes are going to be on the buyout market. The Bulls did not make any moves. They're going to be in the buyout market. A couple names floating around. Goran Dragic might be a buyout candidate. There's a question maybe Thaddeus Young would be one because I don't really understand that fit in Toronto. Tristan Thompson, things of that nature. So we're going to really see, who the Bulls can get, maybe who else any other teams can get in the buyout market, man. So that's why I got my rundown. When we come back, we're going to talk to the homie Shaquille, man. I'm not going to hold you. All right, welcome back. I'm not going to hold you, man. We've got a special guest here. Our guest for the day is the homie Shaquille Taylor. Great writer, good friend. She knows her sports. All around cool person. How's it going, G?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on. Been wanting to get you on for a minute. A lot of things going on in sports today. You know what I'm saying? Super Bowl week, trade deadline. We're still waiting for some baseball shit. But before we get into all that, I just want to let me know everything you've been doing lately. I know you got a lot of stuff you've been doing. You write. You've been doing a whole bunch of other stuff. As far as getting, with black people in baseball and just women getting more involved in sports and things of that nature. Just let me know what's been going on lately.
Oh man, well, I have the Ballpark Figures monthly show with Saber now. It's going to be on the first Thursday of every month on Thursday night. When people have their kids tucked in and they can kick it themselves. It's an interview series where I'll just be talking to different people around baseball, whether they be writers, former players, or whatever. And I'm doing some writing. I'm branching out from sports and writing for Victory Journal, which means most of my stuff's in print now.
Oh, that's fire. That's fire. So it's like, what has been kind of like the difference with that? Kind of like since you say you're getting out of sports just a little bit. Like, what's probably been like the biggest transition for you?
I mean, well, I feel like sports is still my passion, right? So I can't help but sometimes in the things that I'm writing want to stick a sports reference in, or I'm known for sticking a hip hop reference in any of my baseball columns. And it's a little difficult to do that when you're writing about like health and wellness or,
right.
Something like that. But that's the biggest difference. It's not as fun, but it is a nice way to strengthen the skill.
to kind of like, keep everything fresh. I definitely agree with that. That would be hard for me because probably my life is like sports and like nothing. Like I don't really know what else I have besides that. But let's get into some sports though. You were part of the clan of people that I like to call miserable Bears fans. I am part of this clan also. It's been a lot of things going on in the Bears universe since the calendar 2022. Of course, the hiring of Ryan Poles as the GM, Matt Eberflus as the new head coach. What are your thoughts been on everything that's happened over the last month? Justin getting a fresh start. Of course, you're an Ohio State fan, from Ohio. So you have that. I know you're very protective of Justin,
Yes,
Yeah,
that's my nephew.
That's your nephew. So just tell me how you feel about everything going on. Justin's, appearance at the press conference a couple weeks ago. Just let me know how you feeling about the Bears so far.
I feel like I'm like every Bears fan. Every time there's a transition, the optimism meter jumps back up again.
Right.
So I'm back in the okay, anything can happen phase. I thought it was dope that they included Justin in the presser. I know there was a lot of talk beforehand, like we're not making a decision based on Justin Fields. Well, you better, like you
Right.
absolutely better. The decision, it should have factored. They should have asked him his opinion. I'm hoping they did. I'm glad he was there because that's the future. That's the star of the franchise. So I'm a little optimistic, but also kind of skeptical because it is the Bears.
Yeah.
And, I was a little, I won't say sad. I was going to say sad, but sad isn't the right word. I was a little, we'll say frustrated with, how everyone was able to crack jokes on the owners, like, his mom said. I'm
Right.
like, come on.
Yeah, they are the national embarrassment of the NFL. I definitely agree with that. I seen something like on, I think it was like Sports Nation, like before they hired, and they were talking about, well, the Bears can't do this, ha 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 ha, like when they were talking about the Bulls. It's like, where did that come from? Like you talking about the Bulls and you throwing Bear shots in this. I'm definitely with you. I take that a little personal, a little bit, but as far as like you were saying with Justin Fields and how everything, they should be building around him. Do you think that, Luke Getsy is a guy, especially with his history with Aaron Rodgers, is somebody who's probably the best fit for him? I know a lot of people was like, well, I could coach Aaron Rodgers, which was actually my first thought. But then when I heard that Aaron wanted him to be offensive coordinator and how much he loved him at the team, that kind of got me a little bit more excited. What's your thoughts on Getsy?
I think it's a good get. No pun intended. I think it's a good get. I think the Bears needed somebody who's going to come in and focus specifically on Justin's skills. Like I watched him at Ohio State, and he was dynamic, but they coached to his skills. Like
Right.
I will never forget watching games and knowing, well, Justin Fields gonna come in and it's over. Like I want to have that confidence in the Bears offense.
Yes,
so I think getting him a mind who is going to, make things to his skill, cater to his skill set. I don't think we should be getting a star quarterback and being like, can you play this one coach's, 5 or 6 different schemes? Like,
right.
No, we need somebody who's going to come in and help hone his natural talents. We got a runner. Let him run. We got a thrower. Let him throw. Let's get, so again, good get.
Yeah, and also I think Justin, one of the favorite parts about him talking on in the press conference, and I mean, my brother was like, "Yo, Justin's here." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I wouldn't expect him to be there. So he was like, "Justin's here." So when Justin went up there, it was like, "Oh, it's gonna be good to have a coach who is going to be building around my strengths," which is basically what we've all been screaming about Visor Boy for the last year when it comes to Justin. Even a little bit with Mitch too. Like we were like, dude, the one quality he has is his feet. Use it. It's like he completely ignored that. And I'm with you. I was liking Getsy, and especially today at this press conference, like he was pretty much adoring Justin. That was just like music to my ears.
That's what we need.
Yes.
We need somebody who likes the talent we have, not cocky Matt Nagy. Sorry, Matt. But like he was always putting himself above the team, in my opinion. And his ego was huge. And he wasn't recognizing what he had. You got this kid fresh out of college, clearly extremely talented. The Bears drafted a black quarterback, and Matt Nagy did everything he could to sabotage it. So I think,
And you were at his first start in Cleveland, right?
absolutely. I
And
was
that was a massacre.
miserable. I was miserable. Do you know what it's like to go home? Like I already get shit because, I grew up in Northeast Ohio, but I'm not a Browns fan. People forget the Browns left when
Yeah,
I
they
was a
did.
kid.
The Browns
So,
are expansion team.
right. So
Yeah.
like I couldn't have been a Browns fan. The Browns weren't there. So, I'm a Bears fan. So obviously I'm ready to go home, kick it at the crib, and watch my team from the more live city
Right.
come out and do something. And I'm in the stands like, oh, every time Justin would get hit, I would shrink further in my seat. I was yelling, I was calling Matt Nagy bald headed B word from the stands, and I was close enough that he heard
He
me.
heard it.
Like, I was there. I never want to go through that again. I never want to go through that again. I never want Myles Garrett to be able to be like
To be
putting
committing
our
felonies like
quarterback
he
in his
was.
quarterback. Remember his quarterback graveyard?
Yeah. Yeah, that was. My brother was at that game too, and he was just like, "Man, I'm so glad that shit is over and he got out of there alive." Like, so that's the main thing with that one, man. But now one last question on the Bears front. We're always talking about black people getting more chances, more opportunities. One thing that I was real happy about when the Brian Flores thing came out was that how Bill Belichick, obviously they already the interview that he got with the Giants and also the interview you got with Denver was kind of like bullshit interviews. The fact that he interviewed twice with the Bears, he actually felt like that was a legitimate shot that he actually was going to get the job. And I like how they had, Tanisha Wade, Sue Campbell. I said Sue Campbell. I forgot that's his last name, right? I didn't mess it up. Okay, yeah. Who were part of the hiring process. And now you get a black general manager. How do you think that helps with pairing with the black quarterback going forward? This is nothing we've seen. Actually, a black assistant GM at that also.
I think what people tend to never factor in, and I talk about this with MLB a lot, is when you have black people in general in an environment, it's wise to have someone who relates culturally, because everyone wants to talk like we're all humans, da 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 da. But cultural awareness is huge.
Yep.
So having a diverse group of people in the hiring process means you get diverse backgrounds, you get diverse opinions, and you end up with what? Diverse candidates. That's how, there were multiple black people considered for these roles. And I don't think we've even seen that ever.
We've never seen that in our time as a Bears fan. I mean, remember before Justin got drafted, the joke was, but Jimmy Cassidy's not going to get a black quarterback. So, to see where we've come from that and to have a black GM and a black assistant GM, I think is pretty cool. And I like how you said that, everybody's like, we're all human. Yeah, you're all human until you drive in the car and LAPD or Chicago police is behind you. And we ain't all human after that.
Yeah.
So, let's pivot to baseball, which is, you're one of like 6 black people I know who I can actually talk baseball with. It's a very small group of people.
Yeah, we're trying to change that though. We got to change that.
I've been trying to, I try to get my friends who don't watch baseball like, yo, just watch a game. They're like, man, if I'm not actually at the game, you got to watch. And I kind of feel like with black people in general, it's about your upbringing when it comes to you loving baseball. My dad would take me to, Comiskey, what it was at the time. We pretty much lived in the ballpark. And so that's how I became a White Sox and a baseball fan. So, my question for you is more about the Hall of Fame. Well, okay. This was Barry Bonds last year to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He did not get into Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens did not get in the Hall of Fame. Those are probably the 2, most popular names, people who didn't make it. What is your thoughts on just this whole process, the bullshit that's coming from the MLB, especially now they're not even testing for steroids anymore, which is nuts. How do you feel about that whole process and, how they're not really, owning up to their part in the steroid era?
I think the whole election process to the Hall of Fame is kind of scammy. Yeah. Just for example, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens' first year on the ballot was 2013?
Yeah.
And they changed the rule in 2014 that it was no longer a 15-year term on the ballot, it was 10.
10, yeah.
And if you look at it, over the course of time, the further we got away from it, their numbers went up.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, in the last year, they went up. More, you have younger writers who are being added. People, because it takes 10 years within the Baseball Writers Association of America to even be eligible to vote.
Right.
So you got writers being added over the course of 10 years, and the youth, aka the 40 and under group,
Right. Exactly.
that's who's going to go for Barry. And
Yeah.
that's who's probably going to go for Clemens too. And so by changing that rule, they made it clear they're not getting in. So it's up to the Veterans Committee now. I think that both the Writers Association and the Hall of Fame, because MLB technically isn't, Cooperstown.
Right.
This feels purposeful. Everyone talks about all of the already terrible people in the Hall of Fame. I think that's a terrible argument, but acknowledging that MLB was complicit in the steroid era is huge, and no one's going to do that. This is about a lack of accountability. So because there's no specific parameters for which anyone can be elected, it's just the Spider-Man pointing meme, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
no, you won't put him in. No, you won't put him in. And we're just going to keep getting that until there's some rules spelled out, until something changes. Maybe the voters, there should be levels. Like maybe there's a weighted vote. So if you're a writer for 20 years, you still get your vote. However, if you haven't written in 10 and you retired, maybe you don't vote anymore.
Yeah.
That's what's tipping the whole thing. It's age. Nobody wants to say it. It's age.
I mean, I 100% agree with that. To me, it's kind of like, and that's the Major League Baseball's main problem too. Even if you look at the marketing, which I think they're not taking advantage of a gold mine they have right now, all this great young talent. You've got your Fernando Tatis, you got your Juan Soto's, you got your Tim Anderson, things like that, and they're not taking advantage of it. And and how the younger crowd looks, it's not a fun game. Like, and you've even got the legend Derek Jeter said himself, and like he was on Knuckleheads this past week with Darius Miles and Quentin Richardson. He was like, "Well, let's just keep it real. At least baseball is not a fun sport to kids." He said, "If you're a kid and you have the option to play baseball, football, basketball, baseball is not going to be the one you're going to come up with." And of course, Tim Anderson has the infamous thing he told CC Sabathia, like, "I didn't watch that. I don't know what Field of Dreams is," which is I loved. Like, it's completely overrated movie, but that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But so I definitely agree with all that. So, and as far as the MLB taking accountability, I just named the Spider-Man meme. That's exactly what we're getting right now with this lockout. And for me personally, the thing that annoys me the most about the lockout is I feel both sides, more specifically the ownership, knows what number they need to agree on to get all these things done. So what's your opinion on everything that's been going on? And are you optimistic that we at least get like 100-game season from this year?
I think the owner should just give the players what they want. Here's why. It's necessary. The owners have a ton of money. I don't understand where the common person, the fan, is like on the side of the owners, just because they could just give it to them. They could absolutely give it to them. There's so many sources of revenue right now. You have ballparks that are building sports books. Where is that money going? Like, where is that going? So I think they should give the players what they want. While I would like as close to a full season as we can get, I personally don't think the players should budge too soon. I think they should hold out for as long as they have to, for as long as they can, and get what they want, because them getting the things they want advances the sport. It changes the game for everyone. And they could also be lobbying for, better benefits for stadium workers too, because as we saw in 2020, if there's no game, a lot of people don't get paid, and a lot of people, are hurt by that. So I would like to see something. I don't think we're going to see spring training start on time. Because what are we looking at? 2 weeks? It's supposed to start on like March 1st.
Yeah, March 1st. So you got 2 weeks. Yeah, pitchers and catchers are supposed to report already, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And they need 28 days.
Yeah,
that's what Manfred said. They would like to have 28 days of spring training. So I don't think we start on time. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think the closer we get to summer, though, they're gonna push. They're gonna push super hard.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I hope I'm like, my selfish side is like, cave because I want to watch for my personal viewing.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know how long this bull season is gonna last, but whenever it doesn't, I want something I can just go right into.
Yeah.
That for my viewing pleasure. But as far as hoping the players get the right share, because that's what I think it's about. I hope they hold out as long as they possibly can. So, last thing before I get you out of here, we are at Super Bowl week. We are here in LA. It's I hate weeks like this because everybody need to take their ass home. Making traffic 30 times worse than it already is. So we got Bengals, Rams going on SoFi Stadium. What's your feeling going on this game, and do you have a prediction?
Fam, so look, I think this game is going to be close. However, I'm never, ever rooting for Matt Stafford. I'm just never.
Thank you.
I am a Bears fan, so it's just not going to happen. And as an Ohioan, I need my narrative to push forward. So obviously, I'm going to rock with the Bengals. Joe Burrow was at Ohio State, so I still feel like that is.
And he's still repping y'all.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is a victory for Ohio in and of itself for him to be there. But for my own personal agenda, an Ohioan shall lead them. So I'm going with the Bengals. And I think they win by a field goal if they win. Like I don't think it's like a big blowout type game. I know like everyone's looking at 3-4 point game anyway. So I'm going with that, and I'm definitely not going with the Rams. I like to see some Stafford NOs just, for that old feeling.
Especially because he gave it to the Niners 2 weeks ago. They just didn't want to take it. He gave it to them. Like I'm picking the Rams just because I just feel like they have to win. Like just everything. Like I feel like there's so much more pressure with them. And like Michael Irvin said, you can't lose at home. But I want the Bengals to win because one, I want my Matt Stafford agenda to continue to live on. And I'll be real, I don't like Los Angeles sports fans. See, people think that, Laker fans and Dodger fans are annoying. Y'all don't live amongst them. So it's another level of annoyance with me. And they don't care about football here. So it's like, it's just bandwagon stuff. So just on that type of area, I'm rooting for the Bengals, and I love Joe Burrow. So, but
oh man, he's finna come out cool as hell. I already know it. Wouldn't be surprised if he just broke out a fur in LA.
And that's why I feel like more people should compare him to like Montana more than Brady. Like I get the Brady comparison, but the way he just carries himself is more Joe Montana to me.
The code switching with Joe Burrow is too real, right? Like you see him, and he's with the white guys, and he's
posing like he's at a firm. Exactly, man. I mess with Joe Burrow, but thank you, G, for joining me. I'll let them know where they can follow you. If there's anything you want people to check out, just let them know they can get in contact with you.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm so glad I finally got to be on here. Now I'm one of the cool kids. If you want to follow me, Twitter at Curly Fro, Instagram at A Little Bit of Dope. I post nonsense on Instagram and Twitter. It varies, mostly baseball, but I'm there.
Okay, no doubt. Thank you, G.
Thank you.
All right, we're back. Shout out to the homie Shaquille Taylor, man. Get up with her, everything she's doing, man. Stay in tune with her, man. So as we wrap up this Super Bowl edition of I'm Not Gonna Hold You, man, I want to hit y'all my goofy mog of the week. And I've got to give it to the NFL, Roger Goodell, because of these. And I'm going to give it like a second one, too. I'm going to give it to Mike McDaniel also. Mike McDaniel went up there today in his press conference and said that, he's never been looked at as a black man. He said, I just view myself as a human being. My dad was black, which is a very wild comment because it's like, so what, your dad's not black? Like, he basically came off like, oh, I'm treated as white, so that shit don't really matter to me. It's not the wildest comment I've ever heard. I still think O.J. Simpson saying I'm not black, I'm O.J. is probably the most wild shit I've heard. But it's up there. Now, the NFL, we've seen a lot of hirings, of course, with the Mike McDaniel, he's a biracial, and, biracial hiring. Of course, Lovie Smith getting the job with the Texans. I have no problem with Lovie Smith being the head coach of the Texans. Lovie is overqualified. And the fact that you're a black coach, you have an opportunity to be a head coach of 3 teams, I think is very great. It's the optics behind it. I don't like the optics behind Lovie's hiring. I don't like the optics behind Mike McDaniel's hiring. That's not against either one of them saying they're not qualified. I think both are qualified. Mike McDaniel has been a very good offensive coordinator for the 49ers. But even if you notice the words when, Mike McDaniel got, oh, it's biracial, diversity hire. To me, it's just like, they had no plans of hiring either one, especially the Texans. The Texans wanted to hire Josh McCown so fucking bad. And Josh McCown is a guy who doesn't have any head coaching experience at a major level. I mean, he was coaching fucking high school. They wanted to give him a job so fucking bad. And they had interviewed Lovey so early in the process that a lot of people forgot he got interviewed. And as soon as these Brian Flores allegations hit, the lawsuit hits, now all of a sudden he's the perfect candidate. We always had our eye on Lovey. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, and I don't like it. And then even with the NFL being pressed about it, Roger Goodell being pressed about it in his pre-Super Bowl press conference, and it just feels like I don't feel there's going to be any type of change until we get black owners in these ownership rooms, because it's a good old boys league. At the end of the day, nothing's going to change until that happens, and that's why even with the Brian Flores thing, more power to him. I hope it works out. But unless he's getting some real support, I don't think it's going to be actual change. And so it's really the optics about it. Everything the NFL does is just real nasty, and it's narrative driven. It's things to try to make them look good. And I just don't like it. And that's all due respect to Lovie Smith, Mike McDaniel. Lovie Smith is the best Bears coach in my era. At worst, he's third best coach in Bears history. Every great time I've had as a Bears fan, he has been the coach of them, and I hope he succeeds. I just don't hope they're just using him as a guy just to put out there as like a figurehead just to get rid of him in the season and a half. So that's my opinion on that. That's my Goofy Mog of the week. And that's all I've got for y'all today, man. I want to give a shout out to our guest, Shakeia Taylor. Thank you for joining us. I want to thank all y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all. Of course, we'll be back in the studio in a couple weeks. For right now, we're going to hold it down via satellite or whatever. But we'll be back next week. Going to recap the Super Bowl. We're going to get into a little bit of NBA. Now, that's pretty much the only sport that's going to be playing. So we're going to check that out. Of course, to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Barberchef Scott. Follow HNB Media, HNB Media TV on Twitter, and follow HNB Media on Instagram at HNB Media. Follow the Barbershop Network at Barbershop Net. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Barbershop Network, man. And I will holler at y'all next week. Enjoy Super Bowl 56, man. We out.
Triple double hat trick, I know the code too. Ice trade, go for trade, yeah we cold too. Getting paper on these player haters, old news. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not